Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we finally have a real look at Palworld 1.0, and this one feels like the kind of update that actually changes the whole conversation around the game. Pocket Pair says the game is leaving early access on July 10th, and the first cinematic trailer already showed off new pals, new areas, an ominous new threat, and the long-awaited World Tree. That is already a pretty big list before we even get into the patch notes side of things. What stands out right away is that Pocket Pair is not treating this like some tiny cleanup patch with a fancy launch date attached. The studio says the full release is a major milestone after years of early access support, and the trailer was used to tease that the scale is going way beyond a normal content drop. On top of that, the game is being positioned as a huge return to Palpagos, which tells you they are leaning into the idea that this is more than just one more update. And the patch notes from everything the team has said so far sound absolutely massive. Pocket Pair publishing lead John Buckley joked that he was losing his mind trying to make the notes look neat because there are around 27 pages of changes and additions. That alone gives you a pretty good idea of what is going on here. When a developer is dealing with that much material, you are not looking at a couple of bug fixes and a new monster or two. You are looking at a broad overhaul that probably touches progression, systems, balance, and a bunch of little quality of life stuff all over the place. The other thing Pocket Pair has basically made clear is that players should think about starting fresh. They are not forcing anyone to wipe progress, but they are strongly recommending a new save for the best experience because there are so many changes coming in at once. That is a pretty important detail because it tells you the update is likely reshaping the game from the ground up in a way that old saves may not fully showcase. Uh, you can keep your current file, but the way the team is talking about it makes it sound like a fresh run is where the real experience is going to be. So, if I am breaking down the vibe of these patch notes in plain English, it sounds like Pocket Pair is aiming for three big things at once. First, they are adding new content with new pals, new zones, and a new story direction. Second, they are polishing and reorganizing a huge amount of existing systems so the game feels more complete. Third, they are making the whole thing feel like a proper launch instead of a work in progress that just keeps growing in place. That is why this update has so much weight behind it. It is not just more stuff. It is the game stepping into its final shape. I think that is also why people are reacting so strongly to the patch note situation. When you hear that there are 27 pages of changes, your brain immediately goes to all the little things that could be in there. Maybe there are major balance tweaks. Maybe some systems have been reworked so they make more sense. Maybe building, exploration, combat, or progression has been cleaned up in ways that are hard to notice from a trailer, but massive once you are actually playing. The official teaser does not spell out every line yet, but it makes it very clear that the full release is not being treated like a victory lap. It is being treated like the real launch of the game. And that is what makes this update interesting even before the full notes are in front of us. Pocket Pair is basically telling everyone, without saying it in so many words, that the game you know now is about to get a lot more complete, a lot more structured, and probably a lot more polished. The World Tree alone feels like one of those long-running promises finally turning into something players can actually reach. And the fact that they are adding new regions and a bigger story push makes it feel like the world is opening up in a much more deliberate way. There is also something kind of satisfying about the timing of all this. The game has already built a massive audience during early access, and now Pocket Pair is putting a big spotlight on the full release with a trailer, a launch date, and a very clear message that the patch notes are enormous. That is the sort of move that says they want this to feel like the moment Palworld really steps into its final form, not just another seasonal refresh. So yeah, if you have been waiting for the point where the game stops feeling like an evolving experiment and starts feeling like a finished survival sandbox with a lot of personality, this is probably that moment. The new content is there. The story is getting pushed forward, the world is expanding, and the patch notes sound like they're carrying a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes. That is why this update matters so much. And that is why people are paying attention now, even before every single line of the notes is out in full.